This is Ryan from Cards and Boards. In this video, I'm going to run you through the basics of Dungeon Crawl the card game, as well as play an entire game so you can see how the game plays. First off, a few basics. The goal for each player is to be the first to defeat the dungeon boss in battle, but before a player can do that, they must make their way through the dungeon. Dungeon Crawl the card game is a press your luck game, which means that each player can choose to continue through the dungeon for as long as they like, but with each room the player enters, the risk goes up. For each room entered, on the same turn, a player is required to roll an additional die to clear that room. These additional dice are on top of what the room card tells each player to roll. Each of these black six-sided dice used to clear a room has 4 sides that deal damage to a player. One side deals 1 damage, 2 sides deal 2 damage, and another side deals 3 damage. This means that if a player is rolling 4 dice, they have the possibility of having 12 hit points of damage being dealt to them during that battle round. The other 2 sides of the dice help the player. The shield side allows a player to block all damage from 1 damage die rolled that same battle round. The potion side allows a player to heal 2 hit points at the end of a battle round after damage has been dealt. Each room card gives a player a lot of information, such as which direction a player can travel, how many dice to roll, what traps are in that room, and even how to orient the card when in play. When a player first turns a room card over, they will want to find the red arrow found on all room cards. This tells the player how to orient that card in the play area. The red arrow should always point toward the dungeon boss. Once the room card is placed into the play area, the player moving into that room will need to find the picture of the red die on the card. There will either be text or a number next to the die. This tells the player how many dice to add or subtract to the amount of dice they would normally roll based on how many rooms that player entered into this turn. For example, if this room was the second room entered this turn, the player would need to roll a total of 3 dice to clear the room. 2 because it's the player's second room, and 1 additional because of the room card. There's a lot more you can do during this game, such as playing cards from your hand, as well as getting into death matches with other heroes, but I'll show you that during gameplay. For this video, I've set up a 10-room game with 3 players. Dungeon Crawl the card game is very scalable, in that you can play up to 11 players, and you can set the game to be longer or shorter depending on how you set the game up. If you set up a dungeon that is 10 room cards long, and you have 2 to 3 players, you'll probably be playing for 15 to 30 minutes. If you set up a dungeon with 16 rooms, you'll be playing for 30 to 45 minutes. If you have 2 to 3 players and set up a dungeon that's 20 or more rooms long, that game will last for an hour or more. I'll be using the Ogre, the Necromancer, and the Wizard during this game. Each of the 12 heroes in this game have unique abilities, and many of them get stronger in the second half of the dungeon. In this game, the Ogre is going to be the first player, and he starts off each of his turns with more hit points than the other heroes. The Ogre has 24 hit points in the first half of the dungeon, and 30 in the second half. The second player is the Necromancer, whose ability allows him to summon a zombie in any room of the dungeon. This allows him to slow other players down. The Necromancer can use this ability once per game round in the first half of the dungeon, and twice in the second half of the dungeon. The Wizard will be the third player in this game. During each combat round, the Wizard can use a magic barrier to block 2 damage in the first half of the dungeon, and 3 damage in the second half of the dungeon. The Ogre turns the first room card face up, and orients it so that the red arrow points towards the dungeon boss at the end of the dungeon, before moving into the room. Since this is the Ogre's first room, and the room card says that no additional dice are needed, only 1 black die is required to clear the room. 1 damage is rolled and subtracted from the Ogre's hit point total. There are no traps in this room, so this room is now considered cleared. Each player can choose to end their turn after clearing a room, but the Ogre chooses to press on into room 2. This second room says that 5 additional dice are needed to be rolled to clear this room, so a total of 7 dice will be rolled. 5 for the room, and 2 since this is the Ogre's second room he's entered this turn. With those 7 dice, the Ogre rolls 11 damage, and that amount is taken off his hit point total. There's also an arrow trap in the room. Each arrow shown in the room deals 1 damage, so in this case, 4 arrows are shown, so 4 additional damage is removed from the Ogre's hit point total, leaving him with 8 hit points. After that beatdown, the Ogre chooses to end his turn. The Necromancer starts his turn and moves into the first room. He rolls 1 die and gets 1 damage, which is subtracted from his hit point total. The Necromancer chooses to take an alternate route by drawing a room card from the pile and placing it in the direction he wishes to move. Once checking the red arrow on the new room and pointing it towards the dungeon boss, he finds that the room has a cave-in blocking his path, so he cannot move in that direction. Returning to the first room, he draws another room card and moves into it. Remember that only rooms that are entered add to the amount of dice required to clear a room. Since this is the second room entered by the Necromancer this turn, he'll need to roll 3 dice. 2 dice are rolled because this is his second room, and 1 additional since the room card said to add 1. 3 damage is dealt to the Necromancer, and 2 is added back for the potion, leaving him with 10 total hit points. This room has a teleport forward trap, which means that the Necromancer is moved 3 rooms forward in the same row of cards. The rogue is the only hero that can escape traps. All other heroes are at the mercy of any traps that they might encounter in the dungeon. The room that the Necromancer is teleported into tells him that he doesn't add or subtract any dice, so he rolls 3 since this is his third room he's entered this turn. 7 damage is subtracted from the Necromancer's hit points, leaving him with 3. At this point, the Necromancer chooses to play a hero card from his hand. Doing this allows him to not only gain a companion to help him through the dungeon, but also gives him a free room. A room is considered cleared if a hero is already in the room when a player moves into it. No dice are rolled, and all traps are disabled. Any hero can be used as a companion as long as it's a similar alignment to the player's hero, whether it be good or evil. In the standard version of Dungeon Crawl the card game, there are 6 good heroes and 6 evil heroes. Evil heroes have a red background, while good heroes have a tan background. When a new non-player hero comes into play, such as the Archer in this case, 2 red hit point dice are rolled to set the hero's starting hit point total. The Archer starts off with 5 hit points. All damage is dealt to the companion before the player's hero. The Archer has the ability to clear a room before entering into it, allowing him to move through a room without taking damage from dice. However, the Archer will still be susceptible to all traps. The Necromancer chooses to end his turn in this room. The Wizard starts his turn by moving into room 1, but the Necromancer summons a zombie into that room, forcing the Wizard into a deathmatch. During a deathmatch between a player hero and a non-player hero such as this one, the player to the right of the player whose turn it is rolls the battle dice for the non-player hero, which in this case is the Necromancer. The Necromancer rolls 2 red dice for the zombie's starting hit point total, and then both the Wizard and the Necromancer roll 5 battle dice.
So the zombie rolled these, and the Wizard rolled these. The Wizard's going to block a 3 with the shield, and since the Wizard's in the first half of the dungeon, he can block 2 damage with his Wizard ability with the magic barrier, and the zombie takes 7 damage, which leaves him with 1 hit point left, and the Wizard takes 8 damage.
Deathmatch rounds continue until all heroes on one or both sides are killed. In the second round of the deathmatch, the Wizard kills the zombie and only takes 1 hit point of damage because he's able to use his ability to block 2 of the 3 damage rolled by his opponent. Only 1 potion can be used per battle or deathmatch round, so the Wizard heals 2 hit points, which leaves him with 5 left.
Alright, so the Ogre's going to start his turn again. First thing a player will always do when they start a new turn is set their hit points back to full, which for the Ogre is 24, and then they can start by moving into their first room. he will go over there since he's trying to get to the take advantage of that teleport forward trap. He's got to roll 1 dice for first room and another dice for the +1 rune card. And he gets 2 potions, so no damage. And he's already full health points, so he can't heal anymore. But now because of the teleport forward trap, he moves up here. So second room +0 for two dice. And he takes 4 damage. Alright. So now the Ogre's going to come in here and try and start a death match with the Necromancer and its companion. So each player gets 5 dice. So the Ogre deals 6 damage to the Necromancer and its companion, which is enough to kill the companion and deal 1 more damage to the Necromancer. So the archer is gone. The Necromancer and archer deal 8 damage to the Ogre. And they both roll potions, so they both get to add 2 hit points back. And then you start the next round. Alright, so the Ogre will block a 2 damage. The Necromancer will block a 3 and a 3, and then
the Ogre does 3 damage to the Necromancer, while the Necromancer does 4 damage to the Ogre. In the last round, the Ogre deals enough damage to take the Necromancer to -7 hit points, which normally would move the Necromancer back 8 rooms, but no player can be moved back further than room 1. So that's where the Necromancer is placed on his side. When a hero dies, they are moved back away from the dungeon boss 1 room for each negative hit point they had at the time of their death, plus 1 additional room. If a hero dies with 0 hit points, they would move back 1 room.
So, at the beginning of the Necromancer's turn, he gets full life, he gets put back on his top, he gets stood back up, and kicks off a death match. So the wizard takes off 4 damage, and the Necromancer takes off 7, which is enough to kill the wizard. But because he's already in room 1, he doesn't move back any farther. The Necromancer also rolled a potion, so he can put heal back to life. Next, still the Necromancer's turn, so he's going to go ahead and continue on. This is first room, so room 1, and +1 because the room told it to. So -5 hit points. Teleport over. Second room, plus no dice. -1, and then +2 for the potion. So let's go ahead and do another deathmatch. That'll be the only last one round. Okay, so Necromancer will block a 2 damage dice and another 2 damage dice. The Ogre will block a 3 and a 2. Now that leaves 2 damage to be dealt to. Oh, that kills the Ogre, and for moving, he moves back 2 rooms. One for the hit point and 1 for dying. The Necromancer loses 2 hit points as well. The Ogre could possibly come over and kill him, so he needs to move. So he's going to go ahead and risk it and see what he's got in here. It's a skeleton. He lucked out. So he picks up a companion. With 6 hit points. Alright. Gonna do now, it's Wizard's turn. He's going to get back to full hit points and stand himself back up. So he's going to go ahead and move in there, roll 2 dice. With those 2 damage dice, the Wizard rolled 3 damage. The Wizard's ability, the Magic Barrier, blocks 2 of those damage, so that makes it so that 1 damage is removed from the Wizard. There's a teleport trap in that room, so he teleports over, rolls 2 dice, since that's the room says to add 0, and he's got 2 rooms, or this is the second room. And he rolls a shield and a damage dice, which cancel each other out. Next he's going to go ahead and put a hero card on there and move in to that room. By doing that, it makes it so he doesn't have to roll +5 dice, and he doesn't have to roll any dice, or he can bypass that trap too. Roll hit points for the Barbarian. He gets 9 hit points. Barbarian in there. Then we'll go ahead and Wizard will go ahead and push forward and start into a death match with the Necromancer. Alright, this is the first round of that battle. The Wizard and Barbarian rolled these, the Necromancer rolled those. Since we're in the second half of the dungeon now, the Barbarian's ability, all the Wizard abilities get stronger. So the Wizard can now block 3 damage every battle round, and the Barbarian can deal 2 additional damage for each dice that does damage to an enemy hero. The Necromancer can summon 2 zombies per dungeon round now. So, with this battle, the shield will block that, and these 2 shields will block the 2 and the 3. And this 1 damage does 2 additional damage, so it takes off 3 damage off of the skeleton, dropping him down to 3 hit points. And the dice here do the potions. Because this side rolled 2 potions, they can each use 1. So it's up to 3, up to 6. Re-roll for the next battle round. Shield blocks 2 damage. The Wizard's ability will block 2 damage. And then each of these are worth 4 damage apiece because of the Barbarian's ability. So that's 4 damage to the skeleton. This is 4 damage, so 1 off a skeleton and 3 off of the Necromancer. Kills the skeleton. and then 4 more off the Necromancer, giving it -1 hit points. The 2 damage comes off of the Barbarian here. The Necromancer doesn't get to use the potions because he didn't survive, and then the Barbarian can use the potion to bring him back up to 11 hit points. So, the skeleton died, so it is removed from play. And the Necromancer died with -1 hit points, so that means it goes back 1 room for dying, and then another room for the -1 hit point. And it's still the wizard's turn. Since this room has a bottomless pit in it, the wizard cannot travel to the other side of the room because the pit blocks it. So they must go back or to one of the other directions towards that side of the room. So draw a card from the card pile. This one has a cave-in, so this room can't be entered. So draw another room card.
This is the wizard's 5th room entered this turn, but 1 die is subtracted because of the room card. A potion, 2 shields, and 2 damage are rolled. 1 shield blocks the damage die, 1 shield can't be used, and the Barbarian heals 2 hit points of damage. The wizard chooses to end his turn since he'd need to roll 6 dice plus the number on the next room card. The Ogre starts his turn by setting his hit points back to 24 and standing his miniature back up. Then, the room and hero cards are revealed. The 2 heroes are of different alignments, so a death match ensues.
Alright, so here's the death match between the warrior and the ogre. The warrior rolled 2 shields, so he's going to block 2 of the 2 damage dice. The warrior also has the ability where he can block, he starts each turn with a shield, so he can actually block a second dice. Okay. So what's left? 6 damage to the ogre, and 2 damage to the warrior. And then the ogre heals 2 back. Roll again. Alright, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 damage, which is enough to kill the warrior. And the ogre takes 8 damage, killing the warrior. Now the ogre needs to decide. He's got 12 hit points, and the Necromancer's dead in the next room over, so he has to decide whether he's going to be able to get through that room. If he stops in that room, when the Necromancer starts his turn, he's going to have full life, and it's going to kick off a death match, which will slow them both down. So the ogre, I think, is going to take a different route. Ooh, this is going to hurt. So this is the first room that the ogre has to roll dice in, or the first room that he's entered. But because the dice says the room says -1, he doesn't have to roll a dice. So it's a free room. But it's got a teleport back trap, so he has to move back 2 rooms. This room is his second room he's entered for 2 dice and another one for the room. Now, 2 damage dice and the shield, so he'll block 2 and he'll take 2 damage. This also has a teleport trap in it, but that's a teleport forward trap, so it's 1, 2, 3. This is his 3rd room he's entered this turn, so it'll be 3 dice. The room tells him that he doesn't have to add any more. And he got 2 shields and a damage, so no damage there. And he's going to go ahead and try and go 1 more. And see what happens here. So that would be his 1, 2, 3, 4th room. And he gets to subtract 1 for the room itself, so he's just rolling 3 dice again. Shield and blocks 2 damage, and then he takes 1 damage. Alright. He'll be rolling 5 dice in the next room. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and play it safe and end his turn. Alright, so we're on to the Necromancer's turn. First thing he's going to do is give himself full hit points. Stand himself back up because he died last turn.
The Necromancer draws a room card that tells him to add 4 additional dice to the 1 he already needs to roll for entering his first room. The Necromancer uses a shield to block 3 damage, but still takes 5 damage from the other dice. He then heals 2 hit points back by using a potion. He then takes off another 3 hit points for the arrow trap in the room. The Necromancer chooses to end his turn at this point. At the beginning of his turn, the wizard sets his hit points back to 12. Companions do not heal hit points at the beginning of a turn. The only way companions can be healed is from hero abilities or from potions during battle rounds. The wizard moves into a newly drawn room, which tells him to subtract 1 die. As this is his first room entered this turn, it would have been a free room, but the Necromancer summons a zombie into that room, kicking off the deathmatch. The zombie gets 8 hit points to start off with. The wizard blocks all the damage from the zombie using the rolled shields. Using the barbarian's additional damage, they are able to kill the zombie in the first round.
Alright, so that takes the zombie out. The Necromancer can still use the zombie 1 more time. Actually, no, he can't, because it's in the first... he's still in the first half of the dungeon. So, the wizard's going to go ahead and move forward. Free room, because it says it's no dice in there. No dice to be rolled. Go again. This will be, looks like room 3, -1. So you roll 2 dice and take, the wizard is able to block all of that damage with his ability. So let's go for another one. So this will be the 4th room, and then he'll add 1 for 5 total. The shield blocks 1, and the wizard ability blocks another one. And then the wizard is full, so he can't use a potion, but the barbarian can use a potion. Bring him up to 15. And now, the wizard is going to go and try and win the game, because he's right next to the final boss, which happens to be a rogue. should be pretty easy for him to take care of. Rogue gets full hit points because it's the dungeon boss.
During the first round, the wizard and the barbarian are able to block all the damage from the rogue and deal 8 damage back.
And this is worth 4 damage, so brings this down to 4 life, and then heal 2 of it back for the potion. Reroll again. So the rogue with 2 shields will block 2 3s. And this shield, they'll block a 3. And 1 damage off of the barbarian. And 8 damage off the rogue, which kills the rogue. And that's the end of the game.
I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you'd like to learn more about Dungeon Crawl the card game, or any of the other games designed by Cards and Boards, there are a number of links below that you can use. Thanks for watching.